Please don't be Wonder Woman, be Persephone instead. So Mahwish Syed, I just got done interviewing with her today. She's gone through cancer, radiation, all of the things, and this has really put a different perspective on life for her. And she really tries to make each and every day paradise rather than waiting for another tomorrow. So take a listen to our podcast that we just did, get her book, listen to her book, whatever it is, but start making your day your paradise. Hello, fellow mompreneurs. Welcome to the Real Moms Podcast, the go-to space for resilient entrepreneurs who are striving for abundant living. I'm your host, Shay Spitz, a mompreneur and a realtor here in Columbus, Nebraska. Are you a mom juggling the hustle of entrepreneurship, family life, and personal growth? Well, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we dive deep into the real, unfiltered stories of incredible women who are navigating the journey of mompreneurship. We'll celebrate the victories, share practical insights, and acknowledge that it's okay to face challenges along the way. Success isn't about the destination. It's about the journey and the growth we experience as we balance our careers and the chaos of family life. Whether you're a seasoned mompreneur or just starting on this exciting path, join me and our amazing guests as we explore what it truly means to be a resilient entrepreneur striving for abundant living. Get ready for real, raw, and remarkable conversations that will inspire and uplift you. Because here at the Real Moms Podcast, we believe in the power of community, authenticity, and the strength that comes from embracing the journey together. So grab your coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into the world of mompreneurship. This is the Real Moms Podcast, where we celebrate the hustle, honor the struggle, and thrive as resilient entrepreneurs living abundantly. Welcome to another episode of Real Moms Podcast. I like to start every podcast off with a motivational quote, and today's quote is, "Please don't be Wonder Woman, be Persephone instead." So today I have Mahwish Syed. She is an award-winning fashion and interior designer. She is a celebrated author, cancer survivor, and a devoted mother. Her creations have adorned bodies and homes for over 2 decades, fostering spaces that nurture and heal. Featured in distinguished publications like New York Times, Architectural Digest, Elle Decor, and Hampton's Cottages and Gardens, her designs transcend boundaries. Her book, Purgatory to Paradise, unveils her triumphant cancer journey, showcasing how design became her healing sanctuary. Committed to empowering others, she advocates for personal paradises, affirming that genuine beauty is immediate and attainable for all. So thank you so much for being here. You've obviously had quite the journey through your entire life. So tell me a little bit about your journey and what got you to where you're at today.
Thanks, Shay. Thanks for having me. Well, I have been a maker of beauty my entire life, whether it was fashion, whether it was interiors, jewelry. I was a stylist for Atlantic Records. So I have been a tastemaker. And for me, and this is what we want to really start off with, how we frame things and how we frame the word beauty is really important. And when you think of beauty, sometimes we think of, oh, cosmetics industry or something that's on the surface of things. And right now, how I want to define beauty is that it's divine cellular alignment, right? So when you're at peace with yourself, when you're at peace with your environment, and that is a living ecosystem. And so within that, it's about harmonizing your insides with your outside. So that is how I want to define beauty for us today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because you get a lot of people who might look great on the outside, but inside they're just dying, So it's having that peace within yourself and loving who you are. It starts with loving yourself and being willing to make that change because you love yourself, not coming from a state of like, oh, I hate the way I look. Like I'm just referencing somebody who wants to lose weight. You need to love yourself first and say, I love you so much that we're going to do this, or I'm going to do this, versus I hate the way I look. That's why I need to change.
Shay, your cells are listening. Your
Mhm.
thoughts, your cells are always listening to your thoughts, and your thoughts about yourself matters. And that's why I wrote this book and why I called Purgatory to Paradise. Purgatory is that limbo state of waiting to live, of waiting to lose that, persnickety 5 pounds that you're like, oh, I just don't know how I can do it. Or it's waiting to live, oh my gosh, I'm in this rental and I can't wait to, own that home. And while I'm waiting to own that home, I'm not going to invest in my rental right now because it's temporary. That's a life of purgatory. So, I mean, I had clients who one was in a rental for over 20 years and he was like, I just thought I would move out at some point and I ended up staying. So he didn't commit to the space. And it's like we need to commit to ourselves today. And that is what our paradise is. Our paradise is now. It's not where we go when we die. It's about living life authentically today. And that's important. And by the way, the quote that you read, which was, don't be Wonder Woman. Oh my God, do we as women force ourselves to perform, 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 wearing that mask of everything's fine, everything's fine. And so I definitely realized that I was living that life, and cancer knocked that right out of me. Having to go through cancer as a single mom, as a business owner, and having, my son was 9 at the time. And so having to do that, and I didn't tell people because I was so afraid that no one was going to hire a dying girl. Like, what, who's going to hire me? And I had to, bills to pay and food to put on the table and a kid to think about. So I put on that face and I went out there. I mean, I did meetings where I had to carry carpet samples and I could barely carry them because I had bandages underneath my dress. No one knew. And so that level, and the book came after that, I realized, what the hell am I doing to myself? This is impossible. And we are fed the modern woman is being fed this lie. And the lie is that you have to be a great this and a great that and a great everything at all times. And that's frankly impossible. And so we end up hating ourselves for not matching up to that false ideal of the Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And that's why I said be Persephone instead. And for your listeners, I understand sometimes we forget, like I said, sometimes we forget classics class. Persephone is the goddess of the seasons. She's the daughter of Demeter, and she is picking flowers in the meadow, and she's abducted by Hades and taken down into the underworld. And down while she's in the underworld, she eats the food of the dead, the pomegranate seeds, where then she has to spend half the year with Hades and half the year above ground with her mom, which is why we get the seasons, because while Persephone was gone, Demeter didn't let the crops grow and everything withered. And so half the year, spring and summer, she's, above ground with her mom hanging out. And half the year she is with her husband below ground. And what I want to mention why I say that is it's cyclical. So there's a point of renewal in the spring, fruition in the summer, harvest in the fall, and then rest in the winter. And that is really important to recognize. We as women need that vital rest. We need that vital shadow time of being in our own underworld, grieving for things, allowing ourselves to grieve, allowing ourselves to have despair, to have frustration, and to be able to own those feelings. So that's owning your paradise when it is indeed both your shadow and your light.
hmm I love that you say that because as a woman, especially when you have kids, we do feel that we have to put on this masculine energy. And we do have, women and men both have the masculine energy and the feminine energy. The problem nowadays is that a lot of times us women are not able to feel and show the feminine side, because we feel like we have to have this like hard armor of, strength. And a friend of mine who's also part of like this Real Moms movement community, we were talking not too long ago, and she kind of broke down, and she's a very strong, independent woman. But she broke down and she's like, I don't like you, seeing me like this and knowing me like this. And I'm like, no, like I want you to feel that you can come to me, to open up, to share your struggles, because she's got to be strong for what she's going through, or what her family side is going through. And I was like, you need that outlet to come to somebody else to be the sounding board, somebody else to kind of help nurture you. And you need to be able to show that feminine side. So I really appreciate that. I know that when my dad, I mean, he's gone through cancer and he had get his lung removed, and we had some other family dynamic stuff that's going on. And as much as I am there for my family, I am still 30 minutes away, so I'm not there all the time. So I'm that person for my mom too, because she has to be that strength back around home. And then she comes to me, but I need somebody too. So then I go to my husband, but we always need somebody else for that season of rest and winter and things along those lines.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so important what you're doing too, Shay, because in olden times, we were the women around the fire, right? We had that sisterhood. We were able to, and I grew up in Pakistan as a little girl. So I lived in a household of four generations. I learned how to braid on my great grandmother's hair. So I had aunties and grandparents, and basically it did take a village to raise me.
Mhm.
And so that level of being dependent on one another for those things was very much developmentally ingrained. And I feel like we're so atomized right now, as with all our modern conveniences, we are so isolated from one another. And for me, 2025, really my one word for 2025, I'll share with you, it's community. It's building that community. And in that way, you and I can use this technology to connect to one another. So there's benefit, it's a blessing and a curse, but I think it's so important to be able to let your hair down and to be authentic and to say, hey, obviously in a safe friendship or a safe relationship where you can trust that other person to hold that space for you, that is very necessary.
It is. It is. It really is. So yeah, I mean, I think having that community of women, but like you said, technology is a blessing and a curse all at the same time, because it's a blessing because obviously I'm able to connect with you. I connected with somebody else this morning that I would never have these opportunities without the technology. But on the other side, we can get so consumed and caught up in just the scrolling. And one quote that I had heard a while back is you're either being used by social media or you're using it. So if you're getting on just to scroll, you're obviously being used by it. So you need to learn how to be intentional when you are jumping on or utilizing the technology. Be intentional with what those actions are going to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And being intentional in your home space too is a huge part of my work and my mission. And what I have realized since cancer, I went back and got my certification in applied quantum biology. And yeah, of course,
Yeah, why not?
every beauty.
That's on my bucket list too.
Well, I did the research, Shay, and I realized that most cancers are epigenetic. So what that means is they're the result of our lifestyle and our environment.
Mhm.
And which is actually really good news because that means that we have the power and the agency to make changes. And it doesn't take a lot. I know it sometimes feels really overwhelming, but it doesn't take a lot. And why I thought about applied quantum biology is right now, our modern life is killing us because we are not connected to nature anymore. And again, back to Persephone, the cycles of the sun, the sunrise, and the sunset, the circadian cycle, our menstrual cycles, our moon cycles. So there's this cyclical part of our life that we have become divorced from by the modern conveniences. So I realized that light played a huge part in hormonal disorders. It played a huge part in cancers. So they're associating the wrong light at the wrong time with breast cancer. And that's been documented over and over again. And that's important to recognize. So then I thought, why not design spaces from the health perspective? What truly does matter? And why something that can be beautiful, it can be either healing you or killing you. So why not create what I consider real beauty, the real beauty, again, back to that divine cellular alignment where you and your home are in communication at all times.
So what did you learn and what do you do? Because I agree with that. I think that cancer is, I think cancer cells, and I could totally be wrong, but I feel like that they're dormant. But because of the lifestyle that we choose, the foods that we eat, the exposure to sunlight, the health and everything, I mean, it just, it inflames them. Or, you get cancer later on due to your environment. So what are some things that, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but what are some things that people can do, whether you have cancer or not, to kind of prevent all of that?
Well, there's two main parts. One is what you remove from your space and then what you put back. So there's practices for both. And I have audit lists for this for my clients because it's really overwhelming. Okay, what do I remove in the kitchen? What do I remove? And by the way, the number one source of air pollution in your home comes from your flooring, from your wall-to-wall carpeting, from your yeah, yeah. So it's really important. Synthetic materials, not only do they off gas for years, right? But in addition, in nanoparticle form, you're inhaling the dust, the plastics from your carpets.
Mhm.
So looking at your space and recognizing what are the big needle movers in your space is number one, remove synthetics as if possible. I always encourage my clients to purchase 100% wool, linen, cotton, all, think about what your great grandma was buying. Those old-fashioned things didn't kill us. All these new technologies. And by the way, I'm not going to name names, but there's a company out there that's marketing really hard about washability and pet resistance and, stain resistance. And to me, those are code words for synthetic, toxic, poison. And that is an important thing to realize is start looking at the content of the materials that you're purchasing and bringing into your home. And the other part is that you can do that's super simple is open your window. I cannot stress this enough. We need air circulation. And so many of us live in enclosed sarcophagus of a home where things don't breathe. If you think about like, again, your grandma, spring cleaning, opening all the windows, letting the fresh air in, letting there be a cross breeze, all of those things mattered. And, Islamic architecture, I don't know if you know this, Shay, but most traditional Islamic architecture always had the rooms on the periphery of a central outdoor space, which always had a water feature. So it was a fountain in the middle. You see these in palaces in Morocco, or if you look at Alhambra. So you think about that garden space, and my family and I would eat our meals underneath the stars together from all the bedrooms were surrounding and the kitchen was surrounding, the living area was surrounding, but that real space that we congregated was that outdoor space. So circadian aligned, again, underneath the elements, breathing the fresh air. That is so important. So by not only that, and the reason why I say open your window for circulation, it also, most windows these days, most modern windows are laminated to block UV light. So we need that vital part of the sun spectrum. The sun has been villainized for so long. And again, that's part of that modern problem that I'm seeing all over the place is we're not getting enough sunlight on our skin. And we have photoreceptors, not just in our eyes, but all over our skin. So we need that light.
Mhm.
So by opening the window, since sunlight's not polarized, you're able to bounce that light in. Even your car, when you're driving, to just open that window because windows are tinted.
Yeah.
So open that window a few inches, allows the sunlight to come in and bounce off the surfaces, and you're getting that information that your body needs for optimal health.
Yeah. These are very simple things that people can do on a very regular basis. And I know it seems that people get sicker during the winter months, but I also think it's because people stay more inside. They're not getting out there. The sun, I mean, the sun's there, but you're not getting that proper UV exposure. So, what are your thoughts on somebody going to like a tanning bed if they're like, what are your thoughts on tanning beds just to get that extra like light, or is that just kind of like a myth?
I honestly don't believe I'm a big skeptic about modern LED technology. It
Yeah.
has got a long ways to go.
Mhm.
And if you look at, our human existence on this planet as a 24-hour clock, Shay, We've only had electricity in the last 30 seconds, and only in the last nanosecond have we really kind of dealt with LED technology. And
Mhm.
so I often recommend getting, and by the way, you don't need, when I say sunlight, it's daylight. It's not necessary. It can be a cloudy day. So
Okay.
for example, I tell my clients first thing in the morning, try not to turn a light on, try not to look at your phone, and go to your window and look at the brightest point in the sky, or go outside and look at the brightest point in the sky.
Mhm.
Because believe me, that's entraining your body. And
Yeah.
that's important. It's really important. And by the way, speaking of Persephone, during the winter, the darkness is your friend. The darkness has also been villainized. So it's okay because we build up the vitamin D in our bodies during the summertime. So now they're doing new research is coming out that we're actually fine to listen to our bodies and hibernate a little, sleep a little bit more, rest a little bit more. That's also natural.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting. So, can you tell me a little bit about your journey, like going through cancer, when you found out, and how long, like, was that journey for you? And then what were you doing to sustain your business as well?
Thank you. I was diagnosed in spring of 2019, and from then on, my world as I knew it was no more. I took swift action. I went through all of the treatments, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and I had complications from surgery. So I had physical therapy. I couldn't lift my arm. I had cording, so that's a scarification of your lymphatic vessels. So I couldn't lift my arm to even wash my hair. I had to do physical. It was so painful. It's very painful. So I had to do that. I had so many other issues. And throughout all of 2019 and into 2020, and knock
Oh
on
my gosh.
wood,
And the
I
world
I
shut down.
got yeah, well, I finished my active hospital treatment right before the pandemic hit. So I got lucky, but I still had to go back for the following year and do monitoring and everything. But I went through all of that. And for your listeners, especially being a mom, and it's in my book, is how I described and told about my cancer to my young son. And I think it's really important as a parent to not lie to our kids
Right.
because they're so smart. And
Mhm.
to keep that trust going, he was going to see me. I lost my hair, my eyebrows, my face was puffy. I looked so different. And so I couldn't hide that.
So,
And so I write in my book that, I took him to our happy place, which is the Botanical Gardens up in the Bronx. And we were on Lilac Hill overlooking the Rose Garden. And I described my body as a garden. And I said, you know, my mama's body's fertile, just think about he loves gardening with me. So I said, sometimes weeds grow and, we're just going to pluck this weed out of mama's garden. And so that was the analogy that I used. And he got it
oh, I'm
because
sure.
he asked me point blank, are you going to die, mama?
Yeah.
And I looked at him. We were both obviously very teary. And I said, no, absolutely not. I made that commitment. And he's a large part of my book because he was the reason why I was doing everything possible to make it work,
Hmm.
right? To
Hmm.
be there. And, I talked to his teachers and as slow as I could I mean, I was like an old woman. I was limping along, taking him to school. And if I was late, I was late, but I wanted to be the one to take him to school. And so an important value for me to be there and to show up. I never let myself even lie down on my bed. Like I would be hanging out outside on the sofa because I wanted to be around for him. I didn't want him to associate, oh, mama's like, and I'm not, trying to shame anyone who wants to hang out in the bedroom. But
Right.
for me, that was an important value for me to be present with him. So if he was playing with his Legos, I was kind of laying back watching and being there. And of course, with work, I was staunch about committing to it. And weirdly enough, Shay, I was working on a show house during chemo. And I had these pictures taken of me from Architectural Digest and Elle Decor, and I'm puffy and my hair's gone and my eyebrows are like, and I'm smiling because I created that room. It was an homage to my aunt who also had passed away from the same diagnosis the summer prior to my own. And everything in that room was symbolic of the goddess Persephone, of everything that is about our divine feminine nature. And it was a boudoir for a modern day goddess. And I literally, everything that I did, I poured myself into designing that space. And that became my healing because I had that bone to chew. I had that creativity to like focus on instead of, oh, I'm feeling sorry for myself or I'm the victim. And I want everyone to understand that in our modern vernacular, cancer has been in the drama triangle. Cancer is the villain, the doctor is the hero, and the patient is the victim that is being saved, right? Which kind of divorces you from that level of self-empowerment and agency. So I really divested myself of that rhetoric, and I was very, very conscious that I was co-creating my healing with my team, that I wasn't the one who was just receiving that care, that I was the one giving myself that care. And so that is an important thing because it was not a battle with cancer. It was tangoing with Hades. So I did the tango with death.
Yeah.
I did not, and I'm married to death. So Persephone's married to Hades. And I think this is important to recognize that that shadow part of our lives is part of our lives.
Yeah.
We can't divorce ourselves from not, we can't, like, for example, we need to sleep, we
Mhm.
need to rest. We can't perform. So for those of us who are entrepreneurial minded, how do we shut off? How do we turn our brains off?
Right.
What do we do?
Hmm.
How do we take care of ourselves to allow ourselves to perform optimally? You need that rest,
Yeah.
right? Some people take care of their cars better than they take care of their bodies.
Or their dogs.
Oh, right.
I know. I know.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's really a matter of mind over matter. And I think that that phrase gets thrown around too easily. But an example that I love my dad, he's a very strong farmer, mentality. And my kids' um, principal was diagnosed with breast cancer around the same time my dad was diagnosed with cancer. She was diagnosed shortly after. And so I would talk to her a lot about it and looking at two people, different cancers, but my dad, the strong exterior, grew up hardworking farmer, um, in my opinion, had a very weak mindset around it. Whereas you have this woman who has kids and she's a principal and has cancer and has to go through the radiation and surgery, everything that you've had to do. But she went into it with a mindset of like, I've got this. Like, cancer's not going to have me. I've got cancer. Like, I'm going to get through this. Not like very like strong, confident, not even a question that something's going to happen. Where with my dad, again, I love him and he's done amazing through it all, but definitely had the mindset of like, this could take me down. Like I might die. I mean, like two totally different mindsets of like, and both have done great through it all, but you have that mindset like you were not the victim of it. You had the control and you were going to not just give it over to the doctors, like you were going to take the control yourself. And I've heard that a lot with people that you have to be your own advocate. You have to be the person to stand up for yourself, because the doctor's not going to always know everything. They're not. Every person.
yeah. By the way, it's really important if you are going through something is I went through the interview process and I interviewed several doctors because I wanted to make sure like what would you do? How would you do it?
Mhm.
Where would you make the incision? Like I asked every question because
Yeah.
I really wanted to know and what are the side effects of this and what how do you handle this,
Yeah.
right? And it
Yeah.
wasn't just their manner but like what they would do. So I was taking all of that into account. Some
Yeah.
of them were super aggressive, some of them were, it really, I found the best team ever. I love my team.
Mhm.
I'm still friends with everyone. And it's so interesting. The hospital that was my hospital while I was going through treatment, I now do workshops for other cancer survivors there. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, I just did an in-person one back in October, and it was about using all your five senses or your sixth sense being your intuition, to design your healing and what you can do to help ameliorate the cancer side effects.
Right. Yeah. That and I think that's so important for people to know. And that's amazing that they bring you in to do that. Because I remember sitting and you asking all the questions. That's another thing. You have to be an advocate for yourself too. And I think that's also the difference between men and women is that my mom never wanted my dad to go to the doctor's appointments on his own because he doesn't listen, he doesn't ask questions. He's just like, yeah, okay, sounds good. So there's a couple times where my mom couldn't make it, so I would go, and she had a whole list of questions that she sent me, and it was so funny because the doctor's like, okay, are you taking this, this, and this med? And my dad looked over at me and I'm like, yeah, yeah, he's taking those because he has no idea. Like my mom just does it all for him. But I remember some of the things that she was saying, and I was like, okay, well, but you said this, but now you're saying this. And like I was asking all these questions. And I remember looking over at my dad and he's just like, yeah, sounds good. But I mean, like, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I couldn't even, like, my dad would be dead if it wasn't for my mom, for sure. And he'll say that and she'll say that. But you do need to be an advocate for yourself. And if you can't be an advocate for yourself, then somebody else needs to be that advocate. And my mom has been an advocate for my dad the entire time.
Oh my God, so important. It's such an important thing. And frankly, I also understand and can relate to just being in a state of shock and like not, kind of disassociating, right? Because that's a trauma response,
Mhm.
which I talk about quite a bit. I mean, when you're going through something like cancer or any kind of illness, you're in a trauma state. So we either disassociate, which is flight, or we become paralyzed, which is freeze, right? And, or there's all these, or we even, there's fawn, and there's something else I'm thinking of. Flight, freeze. Um, anyway, we can cut that part out.
You're
Anyway,
good.
I'm like, what is that?
I do that all
Um,
the time too.
and so the point with that is you're out of your parasympathetic state. You cannot heal when you're in a trauma state, in your when your sympathetic state is activated. So what I did was design rituals where you can come back to your parasympathetic state. Whether that means, for example, when I was going through chemo and I could barely taste anything, even if it was a sliced banana, I would lay it down on my best dishes. I strewed rose petals on my table. I lit a candle. I drank my water out of a wine glass. So just to create that beautiful ritual of eating that banana with all of these elements, using all the other senses, sight, playing music, sound, and having a nice tablecloth, touch, and using my, cloth napkins. Why not? I brought out, this is no lie, I brought out the most expensive silverware that I never used during my marriage until after I was divorced. While I was going through cancer, I finally brought that stuff out that was like gathering dust because I'm like, why not now? I'm
Right,
never going to use this.
right.
When am I going to use this? So,
Yeah,
like living that paradise for yourself, especially when you're going through something, to bring out, somebody gives you a candle, you're like, oh, I'll save that for a special occasion. Burn
yeah,
it today.
yeah,
We don't know what tomorrow may bring. Use the best linen. You know what I'm saying? Use your
yeah,
best things
yeah.
and don't save them for a special occasion. Let today be your special occasion.
Right. Don't wait for tomorrow because tomorrow may never come.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So did you get into design before, during, after your cancer diagnosis, or when did design become like your life?
Oh my gosh, I have been designing since I was a little kid, but I was designing for already over 2 decades before my cancer diagnosis. So it was very much my lifeblood and the way I perform and the way I move that's my dance, right? That's my dance step. So it was always there. And I actually sought refuge in design during cancer because it was my way of coping and dealing with what I was going through. Like I said, I was doing the show house or I was looking around my home and oh my God, Shay, I started redecorating while I was going through cancer treatment. Because you know what they say about the cobbler's kids. Like I looked around, I'm like, what am I doing with all this hodgepodge? I'm like, I got to change the color scheme. I'm going to do this. And I started like looking at samples and again, it was another bone for me to chew and focus on. And this is really important. Your body is listening. So instead of, oh, I can't think of that, I can't think of that, you're thinking of that,
Yeah.
right? If you say to yourself, I can't think of that, you're actually thinking that. So what you have to do is find the replacement of what you're going to think about instead.
Yeah.
So that is really important here is if you're struggling with, say, your weight, right? Instead of saying like, I focusing so much of what I can't eat, what I can eat, focus on something that gives you pleasure.
Yeah.
A dance class, you know, Zumba, whatever. Like just do
Yeah.
something that takes you out of that constant cow path rhetoric,
Mhm.
right? So we're building neuroplasticity. We're building new cow paths in our brain. So like, let's go over here. Let's try something new.
Yeah.
Let's read a new book. Let's listen to an audiobook about something that, you know, you were interested in, like, or take a pottery class, something that completely takes you out of that neural pathway that you've been going on and chewing on because that doesn't help.
Right. And you said something about just like taking action. Before we jumped on a call, I opened my computer and I went to open the folder for my Real Moms podcast. And I catch myself doing this very often that sometimes I forget what I'm actually doing. So I just take action. I just click on something and then it opens up like, oh, that's not what I wanted. And then I remember what it was that I meant to open. So I do it all the time. Or like, let's say I'm going to go call somebody. I can't remember who I'm going to call. So I just start typing in a person's name and I click on it. I'm like, well, that's not who I was going to call. This is who I was going to call. I don't know if you ever catch yourself doing that, but it's just taking action whether it's the right or wrong step, and you'll realize, okay, well, that wasn't right. So let me go back to doing this.
Well, I have to say, taking messy action is really important because I think we're living in a culture of perfectionism,
Mhm.
and perfectionism is the farthest point from authenticity,
Right.
right?
Right. Yes.
So that to me, if you're going to be authentic, then you have to make space for your imperfections. And at least you're taking that step. You know, it's like Brene Brown. There was some quote she said about, you know, being in the someone who's in the audience and criticizing the person that is actually out there, blood, sweat, and tears, like fighting that fight.
Yep.
And hello, don't be the spectator in your own life. Be
Right.
the one. And if even if you fall down, at least you're in it. At least you're doing something. And I tr truly, truly believe that you can course correct at any moment. So there's no wrong step. You know what I'm saying? In the
Yes.
grand scheme of things,
Yes.
that you always learn. And I look back on my life and I go, oh my God, you know, from the outside, that never made sense. But now suddenly I am taking all those disparate threads that were my interests, that were my career paths, and I'm bringing them all together now. So nothing was lost.
Right, right. And I've said this before on my podcast, but you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So at the moment in time, it wasn't making sense for you, but like as you get to where you're at now, you can look back and be like, okay, now I can bring this together. Now this is why that happened. And kind of going back to the spectator in the audience, I remember hearing Grant Cardone talking about how he was always getting criticized on some of the books that he wrote because he had these grammar errors, but he only got criticized by people who have never written a book. So finally he's like, okay, well, what book you show me, what book did you write? And they're like, but I've also heard the quote, like, you're never criticized by people who've done less than you, or you're only criticized by those who have done less than you. You'll never be criticized by somebody who's done more than you. But it really is
Mhm.
true. Like you have people who don't do much in life, but they're sitting there critiquing and criticizing everything that you've done. But hey, you're the one who's taken action. And like you said, messy action is what you got to take sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And once you practice that muscle to do it and oh, it's scary. And you're like, well, for example, starting a podcast. You
Mhm.
don't know if you're going to have the audience. It's something that you decided to do for yourself. And you're like, I really believe in this. And I'm just going to try and see. And
Mhm.
all the wonderful people you're meeting, you wouldn't have known them if you hadn't made that decision for yourself,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of our humanity,
Yeah.
is that level of, I call it embracing the uncertainty,
Mhm.
right? And becoming that mermaid and letting yourself breathe underwater because you don't know, instead of being on the surface of things, to dive in and to
Mhm.
just go for it.
Yeah. So where do you see like your business going from here? Where do you see it going? Are you wanting to grow it? Are you good with where it's at? Or what is it that you exactly do?
So I work in high-end residential and commercial interior design. So I do projects, from Miami to the Hamptons and Manhattan. I've done that. I know how to do that. And what I'm doing right now is I'm really interested in combining my experiences as my cancer experiences, all the science, and bringing them together into the art and to create healing environments and to be able to share those things. And, I deal with, multi-million dollar renovations that take years at a time. And cancer gave me an insight of what I don't know if tomorrow's going to come. So I designed protocols, which is called claimyourparadise.com, which when I was doing these workshops at the hospitals, everyone was asking me the same questions over and over. I'm like, I got to put all this information down in one place. And it's for people who are either going through illness and also for providers who are wanting to create a beautiful healing oasis in their treatment spaces, whether you're a doctor or a therapist or, or not at all. Everybody deserves beauty today.
Yes.
That is your paradise. Whether you're renting, whether you're owning, whether, whatever your state or your bank account looks like, I find it's really important to embrace what is accessible and attainable right now.
Right, right. Yeah, that is that's just beautiful. And just having your own paradise in every single day and not waiting for tomorrow or for that special day to happen. That is amazing. Do you have a team of people that you work with then?
Yeah, yeah, it really depends on the project. I consider myself to be a symphony conductor, Shay. So all the trades that come in and the beautiful way of aligning those forces and to see something in the rough. Like I loved demo sites because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is gonna be so amazing. And like, like just getting so excited. I love the process. I
Yeah.
love the process of building those layers in and being super intentional. And a lot of times people forget that you need a furniture plan before you even do the demo and do the construction because you want to understand how you want to live and how you want to move in that space, right? For example, if, making sure the outlets are next to the seating areas. A lot of times I walk in and I see layouts and I'm like, where's the outlet for the lamp that should be next to this reading chair?
Yeah.
Like there's no, who's who's not thinking this
Right.
through? Think about how you're going to live in the space. Where are you going to have your coffee in the morning?
Yeah.
Right? Is your coffee station going to be at that window? Is it going to have a garage door where it closes? Like all these things. Where's your charging station? Is it out of your bedroom? Where it should be and
Mhm.
not next to your bed. So, I design furniture. So I design custom furniture. And, for example, I had a client who like specific shampoo bottles and the niche in her shower needed to be just so to be able to put the bottles in, things
Right.
like that, and
Yeah.
to have an outlet in the drawer for, the charging, all of those things. That's living intentionally and designing
Yes.
intentionally. And I feel like with modern life, it's so important to customize even your rental. And I
Yeah.
have tips on about that in my book too.
Oh, that's really neat. I really like that because that's things that are so easily overlooked. I don't know if this is really the word for 2025. I haven't set on a word yet, but intentional, it has been one that's just kind of popped up a lot. And it's being intentional with everything that you do. But I don't drink coffee, so that doesn't, jump in my mind. But even like you said, that little niche in the shower because she buys the same shampoo and conditioner, but it's very intentional, and we need to start being intentional and not trying to rush through life as much as we.
Yes. Enjoy your home.
Yeah.
It's your healing sanctuary. It's your oasis. And that is your front line. I can, if indeed your home is your temple, then your coffee table is your altar, I like to say. And so what's on your coffee table matters. So instead of having junk mail on there or candy wrappers or things that don't have that meaning for you, bring something, bring a flower in, bring a beautiful book, bring a picture of a loved one or a memory or a memento from vacation. And I love tablescaping all the time, Shay. So I will bring things and change things around. It doesn't have to be a static thing. It could constantly evolve based on your mood or based on the season.
Yeah. Little tips of advice. I love it. I love it. Well, tell me, Maywish, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody who's maybe starting into the entrepreneurship world or maybe a younger version of yourself?
Oh, wow. What I would tell myself is please don't stress. Take the time to
Yeah.
rest your body, to rest your soul, to rest your mind,
Mhm.
because there's a lot inside of you and it just doesn't have to come out all at once. And I think we're just constantly trying to like, hey, everybody, I've got this great thing. And that is wonderful. It's a wonderful quality to have to want to share your treasures, but take the time to really be measured. And I think, yeah, that's what I would say, especially for an entrepreneur who is constantly burning that midnight oil, is to take that time to enjoy your life too.
Right. Now, when you say take a rest, because I think what a lot of people want that to be is go lay on the couch, eat like crap, and watch a movie. What would you say your definition of rest would be to truly rest?
Oh, I love walks in nature. It's brainwave entrainment. So when you hear even a bird song outside, your nervous system is ancient, and we have an ancient biology at play. So when you hear a bird song or any birds chirping, that actually brings you into your parasympathetic state because long, long time ago, back when we were, sur in survival mode, if the birds weren't chirping and if it was too quiet, that meant that there was a predator around, right? So when you even hear rainfall, sounds of nature, the wind through the trees, right? Birds chirping, all of these things actually help bring you back into that rest and relaxation state. And you're outside, you're breathing better oxygen. And so going for a long walk is so important without your phone to be able to, without the earbuds, to
Mhm.
listen. Right. Because right now we're in an epidemic of complete isolation where, I'm in a gym. I leave my phone inside my locker and I was just training without my earbuds. I was the only one who didn't have something in my ear.
Right.
And so to be able to start, you know, walking past a neighbor and saying, "Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
How's it going?"
Yeah.
We've lost that connection. So it's important to like use all your senses and to not dull yourself down by going outside.
Right. Oh, yeah. I think that's the thing that people need to realize. Like, because I hear a lot of women and people saying, you just need to rest, you need to rest. But the rest is not the rest that I think people want, as in go lay on the couch and watch a movie. And, that's okay too, once in a while. But a true rest is like meditation, being in nature, going on those walks, silent walks, prayer walks, whatever you want to call them. And then really just being there with yourself and the world and the universe. So, no, I
Yeah.
appreciate you being here. How can somebody get a hold of you if they want to reach out, or you have a book that you want to promote as well?
Yes, thank you. My book is called Purgatory to Paradise. It's available on Amazon and also it's on Audible. So if you're not a reader and you like to, be making your dinner and listening to me narrate, your favorite design goddess, as I call myself, I like your big sister who's, going to give you advice on lots of different ways to customize your space to make it that healing oasis. That's what you can do. You can go to claimyourparadise.com. I have audit lists, I have design master classes, the basics of what you need to really kickstart your healing oasis. And if you're on Instagram, my Instagram handle is Mahwish Syed Designs. And it's Mawish_Syed_designs. And I don't gatekeep, Shay, so I have lots of wonderful tips all the time, what I'm learning, what I'm sharing about how to create that beautiful healing oasis for yourself.
I'm excited to dive into that and take a look at it. I'm a reader, so or I like to read and listen at the same time. I just stay focused on what it is that I'm actually reading. So I'm definitely going to be getting your book, and I'm excited to work through that. I appreciate you and all that you've done and sharing your experiences. I think for the listeners that are going through hard times, don't be afraid to share your trials and tribulations because you're not alone. Everybody goes through them, and you would be surprised at how many lives you will impact by sharing your struggles. And don't shy away from them. Don't be afraid of them. Embrace them and make your worst day your best day.
I love it. I love it. So delighted to meet you.
Thank you so much. And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Real Moms Podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their story and insights today. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And hey, sharing is caring, right? Share this podcast with your fellow mompreneurs, friends, and anyone who you feel could use a dose of inspiration. Share it on your social media as well. But most importantly, if you found this episode helpful, please, please, please leave me a 5-star review. This helps get our information out to those who have never heard or seen us before. Are you feeling inspired and you're sure that you could add some value to the podcast? Shoot me a message and let's talk. We love hearing from you. So connect with us on social media. Tag me at Shay J Spitz. That's ShaeJSpitz. And share your thoughts and takeaways, or even suggest topics you'd like to have us explore more in the future episodes. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Your resilience is your strength, and your pursuit of abundant living is truly remarkable. As always, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep embracing the beautiful chaos of being a mompreneur. Until next time, take care, stay real, and keep living abundantly.